Hello, eRank.
Hello,
It's
everyone.
another live Thursday with me, Pam Duffy, and
And me, Brian.
and him,
Hi, everyone.
Brian. Yay! And we have a
Welcome, and thank you for
load
joining
to
us.
talk. Yes. And Brian, hello there from Toronto, apparently. And Debbie from North Carolina. Homestead, hello. Jessica from just outside of Boston. And Chuck from Malaga, Spain. Oh, I could do with
Across
some
the world.
sunshine today. Yay.
Hola.
I know. Awesome Beasts shops from England
I
as
guess
well.
not across the world from you. That just hit me. That Spain is not across the world from you. Only me.
No, it's pretty close. I've never been, but yeah. Oh, we've got
Oh, you
Texas.
should go. It's beautiful. Why aren't you? Oh, you need to go. So we're not doing a live next week. Pam's going to be in Spain. So just kidding, folks.
Oh, I wish. If I was going to Spain, I would do a live from Spain and write it off to Texas. Yeah.
So if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. Today we have a few topics we want to talk about. GDPR. Nope. GPSR. We want to talk about that one. A couple changes on Etsy and some other stuff.
Yeah. Whole
But get your questions in because that's what we're here for, to help you
this
guys
could be
on
a
your
busy
Etsy
one,
journey.
but yeah. If you sidetrack us with cool questions, that's even better. But there's links to everything I'm talking. Well, we're hoping to talk about. There's links to that in the description, but feel free to sidetrack us. We're terrible at staying on topic. Just to warn you all.
Once in a while, we stick to it pretty good, and yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Oh, Chuck,
who can sidetrack us the most? That's what we're going to find out.
Chuck's asking, will you talk about warranty too in EU? I don't think I know what that is. Can someone let us know about EU warranty?
I think it's similar to the UK, where there's an express warranty. Whether you offer a warranty or not, you have to offer a warranty. Cooling off period, I believe they call it.
Right, gotcha. Yeah. I never heard that called a warranty, but yeah, absolutely. I don't think that's anything that's changed. We've always had a cool. It's like the distance selling acts and things like that. Oh, Anna, yes, I forgot Starla's on Printify today. Yes, she should be finishing up soon, I think. But yes, Starla's done a live for Printify. So after this, you can go back and catch that. I meant to put up links. I totally forgot. I'm rubbish. Yes.
Well, apparently you have to offer a 2-year warranty in the EU. I have not heard about that.
No. Okay, I will look into that. Yes, I probably should have known about that. So thank you so much. We'll look into that afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, EU law stipulates that you must give a consumer a minimum 2-year guarantee, a legal guarantee, as a protection against faulty goods or goods that don't look or work as advertised. In some countries, national law may require you to provide longer guarantees.
Interesting. Okay, but it's similar to a lot of the things. Your item has to be as described and work as expected, really. So, but yeah, 2-year warranty. I didn't realize. So, good to know.
And we'll have to look into whether that applies to custom-made or handmade items. That might just be manufactured items. It could just be certain classes of items. I am not sure because this is the first that I've heard of it.
Same, yeah. So
the EU is always doing crazy things.
Well, there's lots of laws in there, lots of protection, but like you say, Brian, quite a lot of them don't necessarily apply to us. But Chuck thought it was a fun topic and throw it out there. Oh, and hey, I love not knowing things. It gives us something to go and look for.
And it is something that, as sellers, we all do have to be aware of: is consumer protection laws in all of the countries that we ship to. Because we can follow our own local laws, me in Canada, Pam in Scotland. But if we're shipping somewhere else, we actually have to follow those consumer laws as well. So it's always good to know what's going on in the rest of the world.
Exactly. Right. Shall we pull up this
Let's do it.
GPR.
GPSR.
Yeah. Okay, so Etsy has updated this. A lot of their GSPR and their tariffs stuff, they are updating whenever. So this one was updated 2 days ago. So yeah, if you haven't already, I would check out this article. We're not going to cover it all because we've already covered some of it. And as Etsy said, this is intended as a practical guide based on our interpretation of it, and it's not legal advice. So that goes for us as well. Like, if Etsy can't figure out what all this is, we certainly can't. So we're giving you the best help that we can, but none of us are legal experts, and it's confusing.
And we're all trying to interpret it the same, but it might apply differently to different people. For digital sellers, for physical sellers, for vintage or antique sellers, there's different nuances for everybody. So it's hard to interpret it and translate the actual legal documents in a way that is one size fits all.
Exactly. Now, this went into effect on the 13th of December last year, and we were all caught on the back foot, I have to admit. I think we heard about it about a month beforehand. And it applies to you if you sell items to shoppers in the European Economic Area states and or Northern Ireland, or manufacture, import, or distribute products made available to consumers in these areas. Now, this is, but I don't know if it's new or I didn't notice it before, but they have been saying it applies to you if you're a trader. But they're saying, Etsy saying here, you meet the definition of a trader, which may include businesses or professional sellers. Whether or not you're a trader under EU regulation is complex. We recommend reaching out to a legal advisor. So yeah, it's always said it applies to traders, and we just don't know if we're considered traders or not. So we have to assume we are until we know otherwise, I think.
Exactly. And another thing open for interpretation was the big bold line in the middle there. The GPSR does not apply to products listed before 13th of December 2024. I'm still trying to get clarification on that, whether that means the product was originally listed or it was renewed.
Yeah,
So if you list an item before that date, like a vintage item or something that you only have one of, then GPSR does not fully apply to it. But if you listed something before and it sold after that date and auto renewed, is that considered a new product listing? That's something that we are not 100% sure on, or I'm not 100% sure on. I'm trying to get clarification on.
yeah. Etsy has updated a bit here, but this starts with our current interpretation.
Yeah.
Is that so it does not include pre-13th of December listings, even if they're renewed.
Oh, there you go. I missed that.
Yeah, I just read that this morning. But this is only Etsy's current interpretation. Now, Etsy have done updates in your listing manager where you can now fill in some of the details that you need to if you're
the
listing
country of origin and that type of thing.
Yeah. And people are saying that this is only showing up if your listings are potentially going to fall under this. So if it's a listing that was created before the 13th of December, you're not seeing this on the listing unless they're custom or personalized. All of mine are showing up. So, yes, but here again, Etsy's using very vague language, and I totally understand why. They're saying this is their current interpretation. They're doing the best they can. I've read these documents and it's not clear, and I'm sure Etsy's been using legal experts to read these documents. So, here, I should have just read this.
Susanna asked, do we have any updates for EU sellers selling digital items? I believe there is something in there about digital.
Yes, so we'll have a look. But I know it is really confusing for EU sell. It's confusing for all of us. I have to confess that I'm still switched off for the EU just now. So I'm trying to figure out if it's worth my time.
Me as well.
Yeah. So here's what's new this month. A new listing field for product safety compliance. So where you can put the manufacturer information. You also have the ability to add your EU-based responsible person. So if you've missed this, you've got to prove, well, say why your items are safe, keep track of where all your parts come from and everything. But if you're outside the EU, you need to have a person in the EU that's your responsible person. And in general, it's not a friend, because they have to be keeping the right documentations within the EU. So basically, you have to pay a company to do it for you. This is the big blocker for me, really.
Exactly, and you could find this new information, like the new place to enter this information in when you edit a listing. When you go just below materials, just above shipping, you'll see a new GPSR manufacturer and safety information with an add info button.
Yep. And as it says, you can provide this information in two ways, depending on your shop setting, shop setup, and also your location. Some people are saying in the EU they have to do it in all of their listings, and some people outside the EU, you can do it in your shop. That, you know, it's shop level. Yeah, it says right there, shop level. So, but some people are having to go in and do it to every single one of their listings. So if you've got thousands of listings, that's fun. But so shop level, so you can add your economic operator in your partners you work with, and put it in as an economic operator. So basically, if you've got one person, one company that's covering everything in your shop, you can go and put it in there. But listing level one that Brian just mentioned, if you resell products made by others, you'll add the information for each product into the listing. So yeah, but I'm intrigued when they're saying if you resell products made by others, because reselling in general isn't allowed, apart from vintage and certain things. So that's interesting. But so you have the ability in your listing. The product safety warnings, and it's like a hazard check you have to do. There are some more guidance on that in places, so it's worth looking at, but I'm still not entirely sure. The understanding, myself and Brian spoke to some experts earlier in the year, and they shouldn't be too onerous. It's just more saying you've thought about your type of item. For instance, this is something I've always done with my sculptures. We had to, when the toy safety thing came in, we had to make it really clear that this is not a toy. I don't have safety eyes, you know, it's not designed for children. So that's something that I've already thought about. If you have flammable fabric, you'll be saying keep it away from burny stuff. You know, it's the common sense that we should already be using, but it's just make sure it's written down.
Exactly.
So Etsy promised, and this is they've teamed up with a couple of third-party providers to help you to become the responsible person. I've had a quick look at them, and two different types. I think the SERP rep is per number of listings you've got in your shop. It was about £300-400 per year.
Yeah.
The other one is per types of product, which is a different thing. So yeah, you could have a few listings that are one product, as it were. So it's worth looking into them, but they both seem to be charging per year, and it's a few £100, dollars, euros. So
Yeah, both of them. The pricing is about the same. It just depends on how many. Like if you have a shop and you have 1,000 listings, but they're all basically the exact same thing. They're all a T-shirt with the same ink that's used. Then you'll pay less with I believe International Associates than you would with Cert Rep, which charges per listing. But if you have tons of different products and none of them are basically the same, then you'll end up paying less with Cert Rep than you would with International Associates. So kind of check them both out. They're definitely both worth looking into. Etsy feels that they're both looking into, and they did their due diligence with those companies as well. So it's worth looking into. You will end up paying a few $100s per year. It might be more depending on how many listings you have or how many different categories of listings you have. But they're both worth looking into if you do sell to the EU or you want to reopen your shop to the EU because you turned it off to avoid all this stuff.
Exactly. And you've just got to decide if it's worth, look at the traffic and sales you were getting from the EU. Is this going to be worth it to you? That's where I'm sitting on I miss my German and French customers, but I don't know if it's worth a few hundred a year for them.
Yeah.
So yes, we'll see. But there's still quite a lot of things that aren't quite clear yet. So we can't tell you what to do, but if you're unsure and you don't want to go and get a legal expert to help you, you can switch off the ability to ship to the EU, and that way you're compliant. You can even switch off digital. And Etsy are saying if you do ship to the EU and don't cover these requirements, these places might consider your items a dangerous product. The authorities would contact Etsy and Etsy have to comply. They'll take your listings down and they might suspend your shop. That's just their coverall. If you're a continued pain in the backside in any way, then they find it easier to suspend an account, which is absolutely fair. So,
and that's the kind of better of the things that could happen, because the EU authorities could also come directly after you and sue you or whatever their process is, and that is even worse than just losing an Etsy shop. So
yes,
you want to
it
be
was
compliant.
quite a large fine per product, I think. I can't remember, but yeah, it was definitely a fair amount of money. So
Yeah.
Not telling you what to do, but if you're not sure, perhaps switch it off until you are sure.
Exactly. Emily asked, do either of the companies also help with Lucid regulations to Germany? They do not. They only deal with GPSR, and they have a couple other compliance things, but the Lucid for Germany and is it EPR for France? They do not cover that. You have to deal with yourself. It's not that difficult. Etsy does have guides to guide you through step by step how to get certified for those recycling programs. But that's a separate fee that you then have to pay as well.
Yeah, I thought one of them had said something about, I could be absolutely making it up. Maybe it's the other one. Again, eRank don't have anything to do with
any
these
of them. We
companies.
don't have anything to do with them.
Yeah. No, it doesn't say. I was sure one of them said your one place shop for all of that. Maybe I opened something else.
I didn't see that.
I could. I'll check it again. But anyway, that's the two that Etsy have said. But yeah, there is the whole Lucid and the French thing, and probably other countries are going to be doing it too. So
yeah, and just shared the link to the Lucid document in the Etsy seller handbook, and that has like a good walkthrough of what Lucid is and how to sign up and the different sites to use, that kind of thing. And Chuck said, I'm based in the EU, but I am still hesitating to even do business in the EU. The US market feels much simpler. It is simpler sometimes.
yeah, possibly until
Tomorrow when it's not, and then the next day when it is, and it's a little uncertain with the tariffs, with this, with that, with regulations that are coming in place. Who knows what's going to happen? But at the moment, the US is the biggest market on Etsy, and they've been my biggest market on Etsy, and they will continue to be.
Yeah, same. What was it in the financial report? It was 75% of transactions involved a US seller or customer. It's 75% of the G. I've got too many G. It's not GSPR. GD. Money.
GMS. Nope.
GMS.
Yeah, good market.
Yeah. GMS. Yeah. 75% of the GMS. Yeah, Miranda, we're practicing meowing now. Or Brian might have a cat.
Yeah, it's somewhere here. I don't know where she went to. Oh, she's right under my chair. I should not wheel my chair around.
Yeah, else we might get more than just a meow. She's adding her thoughts to it all. So if you speak cat, there's some great advice happening there.
She has some great advice about GSPR or GPSR. She doesn't like it either. She's also turned off selling her toys over there. So that's just how it is.
Shop kitty, absolutely.
She sure is. She always has to be part of the action, right, girl? Oh yeah. There she is, Mrs. Aiko.
Yeah.
She likes to dance. That's her thing.
Oh, that face. Yep.
Oh, she's like a cute little kitten. Back to the floor. Good girl.
And that's why you have to join eRank Lives. You get to meet all our pets.
Lots of animals.
Yeah, thumbs up for the kitty then. That's it, engagement. Sadly, I can't hold my puppy anymore like I did in the first few streams because he's a giant monster.
Not just an orange cat, an orange girl cat. That's actually very rare. Most orange cats are boys.
I didn't know that. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, color genetics is super weird and interesting. Chuck, I would pick cats any day over my fellow human beings. Some of them for sure. Yes.
Yep. That is the beauty of working at home. If you have like a workshop in your home, an area that you do your work in, that means you don't have to see other people. And it's one of the best things. It's highly recommended.
That's why we love Etsy. Yeah, you don't have to work with people.
Once you get to the point of being your own boss, it's quite a thing.
Although at eRank, we have been talking about how we need a meetup in Hawaii just because it's like handy for all of us.
I mean, it has to happen. It's for productivity. For productivity. That's why. That's why we're all going to Hawaii.
So if you're listening, Anthony, we absolutely need. Yeah, no, I don't think we're getting that. Right. Quick little look. Etsy's updated its article on tariffs. This is in the forums. Basically, they just update. This is great, isn't it? Since it started, they're just updating. So that was like a month ago. So they're telling us what's going on. This has happened. Oh, this has changed. This has changed as well. But where we're at currently, so they updated this on Tuesday. So the good news is currently the de minimis exemptions are still in place for goods entering the US. What that means is if your sale is less than $800, then no matter, well, apart from China and Hong Kong, but any other country, you're not going to be hit with the tariffs that you're hearing about.
The customer won't be hit with the tariffs.
Yes, well, that's it. Your item won't be hit. Yes, it was. We don't. If you're not in the US, we don't have to pay, but our customers have to pay if they're hit with tariffs. Unfortunately, from May the 2nd, it sounds like all items coming from China and Hong Kong are going to be hit with the tariffs. And I don't know what the Hong Kong tariffs were, but China...
I believe the current tariffs are 234% for items coming from China. So if you are a seller from China or you are drop shipping your products from China, or your products are manufactured in China and they're going directly to the customer, then not great. If you are a seller in the US and you order products from China, like materials and that kind of thing, the de minimis is going away. So you will then have to pay those tariffs on any of your materials as well, unfortunately.
And I think most of us handmade people don't realize how much of our supplies are likely coming from China. So this might impact your shops anyway. And I will say there are, yes, we know all the Temu and all the drop shipping and everything, but there are and have been since the beginning, genuine great artists, individual people on Etsy from China. So I do feel sad with that, but it's worth knowing. So,
and there's a lot of nuances with that as well. Like the material that I buy for my 3D printers, it's manufactured in Canada because I like to support Canadian companies, but the raw material still comes from China. So even though it's manufactured in China, and even though a lot of the materials you might use are manufactured in your local country, they're manufactured in the US. The raw material might still come from China, so that price might be going up. So that's just something to think about as well. And you got to keep an eye on these, because if the pricing of your materials changes, then unfortunately that should be passed on to the customer.
And it's not just the pricing. Be aware, if massive amounts of goods are going to have to be stopped at customs to be charged.
Slows things right down.
Exactly. So be aware. I mean, we're going into for most of us, it's the slower season on Etsy. But I would probably be buying all your raw materials that you might be needing, all your supplies for the Christmas period, because don't know what's going to be happening. Yeah. But if we leave it till the last minute and all try and order things immediately, wanting them as quickly as they used to be, they might not be there as quickly.
Exactly. Created by EJF said, didn't Hong Kong just cancel postal service to and from the US? Yes, they did. That's just Hong Kong proper, not the rest of China. China is still shipping, or their post system is still open to US. Hong Kong, which is within China, but it's a separate province, has turned off shipping to and from the US.
Yeah, I'm old. I forget that Hong Kong is China, because it
It's
wasn't
within China, but I believe it's a British colony.
No, we gave them back. That's when I was a kid. The UK had Hong Kong, and we gave them back. I can't remember when. That's why I'm getting a little confused. So I'm like, Hong Kong.
That's how we learned it too. But
yeah,
times are changing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not trying to be political there. I was just like, oh yeah, it's the same country. Yeah, I forgot.
Chuck asked, can I ask an eRank question? Title format. I see lots of listings that make no sense, just keyword stuffing. Is that better than long tail keyword designed for actual human beings?
Right. Yes and no. You might see a top seller on Etsy that has an absolute keyword stuffed listing. And if it's a top
seller,
or
a title that has just one word,
it
can go both ways and have the same result that Pam's about to talk about.
Yeah. If it's working for them for whatever reason, it could be that title's working for them, because if it's a high seller, what happens is it has a lot of ranking power. So Etsy wants to show it to people. So all these extra words are going to give Etsy more signals to say, what is this item? Who can we show it to? We've got lots of combinations of words we can match for a keyword. But it can put a customer off. So it depends. Like, it's unlikely something like a high-end engagement ring or a wedding dress or something would have an absolute spam of keyword stuff, because you'd look at that and go, is that coming from Temu? Literally it will put you off. But, if you're buying your supplies or something, you're probably not worried if it's very keyword stuffed.
Exactly. Etsy's guidelines are that your title should be short and precise, and that your main keywords should be at the front of the title, because that's what's seen in search results. They don't necessarily have like more priority, but that's what people see, because your title will be truncated in search results on your shop page. The only time you see the full title with all of that keyword stuffing would be when someone's actually looking at that listing. So Etsy's guidelines are short and precise, and a lot of that is to avoid confusion. If someone's buying a handmade chair, they want to know that it's an actual chair and not a dollhouse chair. But if you have a lot of extra words in there, it can kind of seem like, oh, maybe it's one of those things that are trying to trick me. And that's why keyword stuffing isn't necessarily great. Generally, titles should be for the consumer, should be for the person searching on Etsy. While those words are used in search results, it's better to keep it small and tight, and then everything else can go into your tags.
Yep, exactly. I had something else I was going to say, and it's totally fallen out. Not you at all. Oh, and quite a lot of search engines tend to prefer more concise titles as well, Love the mug. But yeah, so if you're hoping to show up on Google, now most of us probably won't show up on Google for our items, would show up in the Etsy marketplace tab on, that shows up on Google. But if you have very specific things that are likely to hit Google, I would narrow down that title and do everything by the Google book, because I've seen
Google
some
really
shops.
hates keyword stuffing. They hate
Yeah,
it on your page. They hate it in the description. They hate it in the title. They're really not a fan, and they actually push down ranking of pages that keyword stuff. That's why if you look at the internet from 20 years ago compared to today, you used to see a lot of keyword stuffing where you'll see characters that, like, underneath the text or the content of the page, you'll just see a random splattering of words. That was the keyword stuffing that people were doing. And
yeah,
Google is now smart enough that they completely ignore that. Etsy search is now smart enough that it ignores a lot of it, because it doesn't lead to better searches. It's people trying to game the system, and that's why they recommend the short and concise titles as well.
yeah. I thought I was a genius a good 20 years ago when I built my first website, and every page had
The
cut and pasted
metadata.
a ton of, well, all the keywords I was hoping for in the same color as the background.
Yeah.
And that worked for a couple of years, and then Google went, no, you are never going to rank again. You're a bad person. So yeah, it's much as we're teaching SEO where we can, we're hoping to help you with that. But the most important thing is you just give enough for the algorithm to understand what your item is. Mainly, it's all for the customer.
Yeah.
You want the customer to understand what your item is. Oh, that was the other thing. Yeah. If your title has a whole load of keywords all stuffed in, I've seen what can happen is the customer can go, oh, but I thought I was getting that and that and that because it's all in the title. And Etsy will side with the customer, and you'll get in trouble for that, because if it's confused, it's the same like your first picture. I used to love doing the arty pictures where you have your main item in focus and the blurred out in the background of all the other things you can make. No, because then customers go, but I thought I was getting all of them.
Yeah. And they will play that card if they don't like the item, or they actually legitimately thought that they were getting the other stuff, or they just don't find as much value in your item. They will play that card, and Etsy will be on their side because those words are there, or that image is in like that product is in the image, and you didn't say not included. And yeah, so you got to be careful with stuffing, because there's lots of different ways that it just doesn't work for you.
Yeah. Oh, there's some great questions, but Awesome Beats kind of rounds up everything there. What I'm trying to find out, if it's been processed on May the 2nd, will the end customer be charged?
Yes.
Oh,
They're charged on point of entry. So as if it enters the country, if it enters the US after May the 2nd, then they will be charged a tariff on that. It's the same way with most countries that have duties or customs fees. You pay that on entrance into the country. It doesn't matter what happens previously. So there's actually a lot of sellers that are really worried right now, not just on Etsy, but on Amazon, and people that are ordering large quantities of stuff from China and it's coming by boat, which can take 2 to 3 months. They made the purchase a month ago, and now these tariffs are coming into place. They're going to have to still pay the tariffs, even though everything was purchased and shipped before that May 2nd deadline. It hasn't entered the country yet, so they will still be paying the tariffs on that when it does hit that port of entry.
yeah. I'll add the disclaimer if the processes are in place. Because things are changing so quickly, it's going to be very difficult for customs to have everything set up. So
Yeah.
it's potential that I don't guarantee it, but there's a good chance that customs will just be like, we're not ready yet, and just pass the stuff through, or they might
Which is
say,
what
we're not
happened
ready.
last time when
Yeah.
the tariffs were initially put on. The problem is that USPS does not have a system in place the way that many other postal systems do, where they leave a notice at your door saying, "Hey, come pick it up because you owe us money." They don't have that system in place, and so they weren't able to do it. Apparently, they do have it, or they are very close to having that ready. So expect that to be the case. And Awesome Bee Shop also asked, how is the customer notified of charges? Most likely, it will be by a notice, the same way it is in other countries, where either the post worker will collect money at the door if the person's home, and if the person's not home, then they will just leave a note saying, "Come pick it up at the post office, and there's this much due on that item."
Yep. Brian, is the tariff going to be charged on top of the fine? What fine is this? There's a fine of $100 raising to $200 in June. I don't think I've heard of a fine. So if anyone knows more about that.
Fine might not be the right word. I believe there is I forget what word they're using, but it's a minimum. It's a maximum amount. I'm not sure 100% how that works. I heard that there's a maximum amount that people will pay on tariffs if you're not wholesaling, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Right, so a cap rather than a fine, which probably won't be. Well, I was going to say probably won't help, but yeah, if you've ordered something over $100 and the tariffs are like 200%, I think you said, then yeah, a cap of $100 would work in your favor if you didn't pay more than that. But yeah, not. I think
it's not clear yet, and they keep kind of throwing it out there. And
as AGF said, the mottos is no one knows what's happening, and that is with the GSPR and the tariffs. You know, a lot of things we're all quite confused on. We are doing our best to figure it out, but yeah, nobody knows.
The problem is that GPSR, a lot of that is just the interpretation of the law that's already in place, and it is in place, versus the tariffs where they are constantly changing on a daily basis, and none of it has been clear. It's been fun. It's been fun.
Susanna asking, don't US peeps get a notice in their mailbox if they need to pick up a package? As far as I know, they do, but it's very rare because generally
they'll just leave it a lot of the time. But if something is like cash on delivery, COD, then they will get a notification that they do need to pay and pick it up from the post office. It's just the mail services were not set up for that. Most of them did not have a like a card reader kind of thing, like a payment gateway on them at the time, so it just wasn't possible. And it was a very rare thing. It being now basically every package that's entering the US, which is millions and millions and millions of packages, they were not prepared for that. They probably didn't have enough of those slips printed.
Millions and millions of slips. Yeah.
They need to get on Vistaprint and just get more of those slips printed.
Yeah, Emily says, yes, we do if it requires a signature or the postage didn't cover the shipment. Yeah, so there is a process in place, but these are big changes we're talking about. So it's going to take companies a while to sort things out. Awesome Beats, good question that Etsy has answered for us. If the customer refuses to pay the tariff, will it negatively affect my shop? No. Etsy have said where they can, they will let the customer know that there might be tariffs to pay. And if the customer refuses to pay, that would probably work as a forced return. It will come back to you. That won't hurt you. It never did if there's a forced return.
Yeah.
But also, Etsy, I believe, have said they'll remove bad reviews as well if they're based on this. I'm sure I read that. So that's good, but it will not negatively affect your shop. Etsy have said that they're working on that.
And forced returns have never had a negative impact on your shop. If someone refuses delivery, or if it delivers to the wrong address, so it gets shipped back, you're not impacted by that whatsoever. As long as you originally shipped it on time, you're completely in the clear.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if I can find that tariff thing. Not tariff, how it will affect us. They're definitely, they say, hang on, I can actually share, can't I? That's a sensible thing. So Etsy saying, to help protect business, we're clarifying the eligibility criteria for the purchase protection program. You're not responsible for refunds if an item arrives late or is not received due to buyer delay, inability or unwillingness to pay tariffs. So that will be covered. Your purchase protection program, the customer won't get to claim. They'll let buyers know if their order may be subject to tariffs. Oh, yes, we did see in the, when I said this was a new thing, people were saying, no, it's been there forever. But in your customs label, when you're making purchase and shipping labels on Etsy, you can now put the country of origin on it.
Yeah. That was never there. As far as Canada goes, because that's all I can talk of, that was never there. That was just added within the last few weeks.
Yeah, I thought I saw it and I put it up. I was like, this is a new thing. And everyone's going, no, it's been there forever. Am I losing my mind? I thought it was.
It might have been there in the U.S. market or something like that, but in Canada, when creating labels for Canada Post, it was not there before.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was new.
Yeah.
And Etsy say they're advocating for small businesses. They're talking to policymakers on our behalf, which is cool because they have a bigger voice. Just seen, I'm sure I read something about reviews and I can't see it just now. I'll check that. I might be hallucinating, but anyway, there is some data there.
Created by EJF says, as if the postal carrier's job wasn't hard enough already. Yep. And as if mail didn't move slow enough already sometimes. It's just another thing that they have to do, which means it's going to slow down everything.
Yeah, so, it's definitely going to be tough. I mean, I imagine the customs people won't even have enough people employed just now to deal with this. So things are going to have to change if this carries on. But as Etsy politely says, it's an ever-evolving subject. It's changing. Well, I think myself and Starla came on and talked about this 2 weeks ago, and by the time we came off air, it had changed. So I can't keep up with it.
Yeah. Awesome Beast Shop asks, is it worth removing all my listings coming from China? That's something that you'll have to figure out and kind of go over the numbers and see what makes sense. Assume that the tariffs are going to be on and assume that they might rise even more than they already are, which is just unfathomable. But let's say that they do. Keep that in mind and make sure that your pricing accommodates that. Because you don't want to sell things and be losing money on every sale, because then it becomes not worth it at all. But if it does make sense and you do have a way of just kind of subtly nudging your customers to let them know, hey, there might be tariffs on this, whether that's putting it in your description or something like that. Etsy will also have a notification that there may be tariffs. I know that when I order something from Etsy, and it's coming from the US or it's coming from outside of Canada, I do get a notice saying that I'm responsible for any duties, customs, or fees on that package. I assume that US buyers will be receiving that type of message as well, but just in case they miss it, it's good to just remind them in the description or in your announcement or just in your facts, say, hey, my stuff is coming from here, so there might be a tariff, and just letting people know. That's kind of the same thing with GPSR, of just letting people know what the product is, what it's made of, and where it's coming from. And so by letting the US buyers know, hey, this is actually coming from China, so be prepared that there might be a tariff. This is not a US based or a Canada based or something with a lower tariff. This is the highest tariff location. That's just good to let them know. So you don't necessarily have to turn them off. Just make sure that you're letting customers know, and that financially it still makes sense.
Yeah. If it's something like print on demand or that kind of thing, it might be worth looking at other providers, that you could have a US listing, and then if you're selling to the rest of the world, because I don't think we even mentioned this is just to the US. Like if Brian's buying something or I'm buying something from China or from anywhere, we won't see any difference at the moment. There are no tariffs for us just now. So yeah. So I mean, all that could happen is you. Well, because you're not going to get hurt. Yes, you could get hurt in that your customers might get a surprise, but I'm pretty sure most people in the US should know sort of what's happening. But people might buy something and then go, "Oh, why is this? Why am I having to pay extra?"
They
But
might not know that it's coming from China,
yeah.
um,
Mhm.
and so make sure that that is clear to the customers.
Yes, yes, very much so. But yes, if you ship worldwide and some of your things come from China, I wouldn't switch them off. You could maybe, if it's going to be too much trouble, and it's an item that people aren't going to want to pay 3 times the price for, you could switch off the US as able to to ship to the US, but still keep going everywhere else. If if it's a one of a kind thing, an original work of art, something that they can't get from anywhere else, people might be willing to pay. So yeah, don't always write off think people can pay more than you think though. Sometimes I've always been surprised by that. I remember, it's not tariffs, but I remember I used to always be in that mindset of you've got to keep your prices as low as possible. And I made a horse one time. I made a horse sculpture and I was so proud of it and I didn't want to sell it. So I listed it for like about 4 times what I normally listed everything for. And it sold in hours. So people are weird. If something's really expensive, it's far more exciting.
Exactly. And just a reminder that that is not just stuff coming from China, it's anything with a country of origin of China. So just a reminder. So even if you are shipping it from a different country with a lower tariff or no tariff at all, it could still end up with that high tariff if the country of origin is China, even if you're shipping it from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's important for I check with if you print on demand, check with your companies because you don't know, they're going to have to be checking this out as well, but you really want to know country of origin for all the blanks and everything. Yeah. So that's another interesting one that yeah, you might get hit with without realizing you're going to get hit with.
Exactly. And actually, Heather has a point there. The drop shippers that seem to be in the US will have a problem with these tariffs. I have friends that thought they were buying from the US. Exactly. Which is actually great for Etsy because it puts a little more like pain
Yeah.
points on these drop shippers, which people should not be drop shipping on Etsy. That is against the policies. But that does happen from time to time. You think you're buying from a U.S. shop or a local shop, but then it's actually coming from India or China or the UK. Like it's coming from somewhere else. The seller might be in the U.S., but they're drop shipping it, or they're just ordering it from somewhere else. So it could be
Yeah.
print on demand, so it's coming from somewhere else. I know that certain shirts from Printful come from the US. Even though I'm in Canada, it's just in Canada. We don't have that shirt. So I get hit with the duties, even though I think I'm buying from Canada, but it is coming from the US because of the material that's being used.
Yes, that all gets very confusing. So yeah, it's definitely worth looking into. Yes, but yes, if it drops down these, because people are saying, oh, it's great, it will stop all these terrible Chinese shops. No, it will stop these terrible US shops that are
Yeah.
doing what they shouldn't be doing. So I'm very happy to get rid of them. Yes, drop shippers, bye bye, great. But it's going to hurt people who don't deserve being
Oh yeah,
hurt.
it's gonna hurt the customers more than anything, but hopefully enough customers get upset and complain because that's how change actually happens. If people are complaining about something, then Etsy has to actually take that to notice instead of just it's a few people. Once you hit
Yeah.
someone's wallet, then it matters.
Yeah, I should have put the disclaimer. I'm sure everyone knows we are in no way political here. We're not even in the
No,
US, but this is just, we're trying to think of how this impacts you as creators and sellers and everything. So,
exactly.
bonus, hopefully the drop shippers will be gone. but we've got to think of all the things like Chuck is saying. All materials come from China. Things we print on, things we print with. Yeah, and yeah,
A
people
lot of
don't.
stuff does come from Vietnam or Singapore or Bangladesh, stuff like that, like print on demand products, but there is a large quantity that do come from China, so that's something that you do have to think about.
Yeah, Heather, good point as well. Yeah, I expect my packaging costs will go up. Yes, quite a lot of those ancillary things that we don't necessarily think of. I don't think most of us buy the most expensive shipping or something. We try and get good packaging and everything, but we try, that's probably where you're cutting money when you're a bit skint and everything. So, yes, I
It's
don't
actually
know
one of
how
the
much.
reasons that I switched a couple of years ago to I use cardboard boxes now. I used to use poly mailers and bubble mailers, but the ones I was getting or the ones that I had access to were all manufactured in China. But the boxes and everything are actually that I use are Canadian boxes made in Canada using Canadian pulp. So it just made more sense in that way. But that type of thing will be going up for a lot of sellers. A lot of sellers are buying their packaging materials either AliExpress, Temu, even Amazon. It could still be coming from China. So your shipping costs might go up, not the actual cost to ship it, but the cost of your shipping materials you might start to see that rise up. So you might have to just keep an eye on where everything is coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we'd figured this out sooner, we should have come on like a few weeks ago and just say buy all of your stuff for the next year right now, because we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much for looking into these things. But found a CNBC article saying a 30% tariff or a $25 fee. Right. So yeah, it's an either or. It's not a 30% tariff anymore. That ship sailed, but. But yes, so or a $25 per item fee. So that could well be if you're buying something very cheap rather than put a tiny 30% on it, you just get charged a flat rate. Okay. I hadn't heard all of that, but honestly my head's been spinning. I've been trying to keep up to date with things, but it's almost like you finish reading one article and something different is happening. So it's hard to know what's happening. And also neither of us are in the US, so we are relying on you guys to tell us what's happening.
Exactly. And sometimes briefings from the White House versus briefings from Trump himself, those clash where like electronics are exempt and then they're not. And they, yeah, who knows what's happening?
Yeah, that's it. We just have to sit back and wait and see, basically, because we could be telling you all this. I mean, this goes in the start of next month. It might not. We don't know. Things change. There are lots of negotiations happening behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Anything could happen.
But just like preparing for the holidays, if you do get your shipping materials and whatever else from China, you might want to get that in as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Oh, Chuck. Great. We decided to start our POD journey a month ago. Great timing.
You might not necessarily be impacted. There are materials that are like there are shirts and coasters and all that type of stuff that are made in the U.S. or made in Canada, made wherever, and they might be exempt from these tariffs depending on how much of the product is manufactured in different locations. So you might still be fine. Just keep an eye on it does say on Printify's website, on Printful, on all of them, it does say where the actual material is manufactured and where it's printed, and basically you're given all of that information. So go through, read it, and just verify that it is coming from where you think it is, so that it will not be mixed in with all of this.
And the print on demand companies do tend to be fairly on the ball with these changes. The GSPR, by the way, check your print on demand company probably has this all dealt with.
Yeah.
So for these tariffs, they are probably on the ball with this and will be setting up things to help you as well, or even just to make it easier to find the stuff that's fully created in the US or anything. So all worth it. Yeah.
Exactly. And again, these tariffs, this 234% tariff is just on stuff coming from China. A lot of clothing, a lot of shirts are not from China. They're from India, they're from Pakistan, they're from Bangladesh or Singapore, Vietnam. They're from other locations. So you might want to avoid the stuff that is coming from China at the moment, just because you don't know what the current situation is. But there's lots of others to choose from coming from some places that do not have any tariffs on them right now.
Exactly. You just got to try and keep up to date with things. But
and again, just like GPSR, know where your stuff comes from. It's always a good thing to know where all of the materials are coming from for the whole process. Even if you're print on demand, it's good to have all that information at hand. If a customer asks, it's good to have that information for them.
Yeah, I think that is an important thing with print on demand, with anything, but with print on demand specifically. Bear in mind, you're building a brand, you're building a business. So it's not just a case of, oh, whatever, I made a design, slap it on a t-shirt, it's not my problem. Try and get the quality that you want to be known for. So always check in on these things. So knowing where it comes from, knowing the materials, knowing like Starla's always ordering her stuff, knowing what it's like to live with the item that you created. It's where you can afford it, obviously. Not you can't, but if you've got 6,000 listings in your shop, you're not going to buy them all, but you can get a little sample. We all need extra t-shirts now and again. So
exactly. And that way you also know that the quality of the product is good, that the design that you have actually works well with the printing process and the type of shirt that's being used. Like if you are doing print on demand, it's always great to have samples. Also, taking photos of the actual product yourself instead of just using mock-ups is always a bonus.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I remember in our Facebook group, link in the description, but in our Facebook community, I remember someone posted, a few years ago now, but he had a beautiful, intricate design and he'd got it printed on 2 different mugs from the same company. And
Very
wow,
different.
the differences. Yeah, like a lot of the beautiful line work was absolutely gone. It never made it to print. So
Yep.
yeah, just because something looks good, like that mock-up you get isn't really going to show how something prints.
Exactly.
And yeah, if you've got it in your hand and you can take the picture of it, then the customer can see that too. Because yeah, how often have we browsed sites and you just look and you go, that's not going to be what it looks like when I get it. That's
Exactly.
not close to the same thing.
There's a difference between showing someone a JPEG versus actually showing them the Cricut cut sticker kind of thing. Like it's always going to be slightly different. So samples are always a good idea. That's why they give you the meta discount.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's a good way to get stuff cheaper too. So make stuff that you could use as well.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Oh, I can imagine your house must be full of cool 3D printed things that didn't go to plan or you're testing out or something. Yeah.
Yep, it's great. Oh, that failed. Oh, I guess we have to keep that one.
Yep. That's it. You know you're a crafter when you're full of things. See, the number of people I know that my friends that they're older parents who've been into crafting for years. Like when I was a kid, I remember like elderly people were always trying to downsize their house.
Mhm.
Now elderly people are trying to get a bigger house because they need a bigger craft room just to keep all the supplies and stuff.
Oh, love it. But thank you for joining us, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, join us on Facebook. The links are all down below.
Yeah.
Happy Easter, Chag Pesach Sameach, and yeah.
Yeah, and join us again next week. And if you're in the Facebook group, every Wednesday I put up a post if you want to get questions in advance. But yeah, join us same time, same place.
and hopefully something more positive to talk about than all of the trials and tribulations of tariffs and regulations and GPSRs and lots of fun unknown things.
Exactly. So if you're having a holiday, guys, enjoy it, and we'll be here next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
It wasn't easy, no, but with eRank